I'm calling to order the meeting of the Wilsonville City Council for Monday, January 5th. Will the city recorder please conduct the roll call?
Councillor Linville?
Here.
Councillor West?
Here.
Council President Ockervall?
Here.
Councillor Lehan?
Here.
Mayor Fitzgerald?
Here. Thank you. Will the city manager please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag
To the United
States
States.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the order of agenda? Councilor Lehan.
Your Honor, I move to approve the order of agenda.
Is there a second? Councilor Linville.
I second the motion.
We have a motion to approve the following order of agenda. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
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 Thank you. Motion passed 5-0. We'll now move to mayor's business. I want to note that the next meeting of our city council is Monday, April 19th, 2021. At this meeting, we have the opportunity to celebrate Volunteer Appreciation Month, and we are going to do the way we will do that is with a special proclamation. And so, we're a city with a strong, active volunteer force, and even though we're in another year of COVID-inspired reduced activities, it's a great time to celebrate our volunteers. Before I read the proclamation, I think we will just go through this little slideshow about our volunteers. So if you could go to the next slide. Our volunteers lend an invaluable helping hand. They support the city in a number of capacities, and I just wanted to list those. You'll go to the next slide. Here is a list of boards and task forces that are comprised entirely of volunteers. They have adapted over the last year or so and have met all 100% via Zoom. So I just wanted to acknowledge our Planning Commission, Design Review Board, Budget Committee, Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, the Library Advisory Board. We also have Wilsonville Friends of the Library and the Library Foundation Board. We have the Wilsonville Metro Community Enhancement Committee, the Tourism Promotion Committee, and the Kitakata Sister City Advisory Board, which is new. And on the next slide, you see a list of task forces that have been meeting recently that we are celebrating this year also, our Arts, Culture, and Heritage Task Force, the Equitable Housing Task Force, Wilsonville Seniors, the Parks Bond Task Force, the Dial-A-Ride Steering Committee, the Library Strategic Planning Committee, and the newest group that is underway and being formed shortly is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Informal Community Group. I think that's our last slide. And so I'd like to, we do have one more. So this is looking ahead. And we want to know that we will start welcoming back volunteers who rehabilitate our parks, and excited for the upcoming WERK Week event, the Work Week. And when it is safe to fully reopen our facilities again to volunteers, we look forward to welcoming many other activities by our volunteers, including shelving books at the library, serving meals at the community center, delivering meals to homebound seniors, assisting at summer events, and people who aid departments throughout the city, including our smart transportation system and more. So it's just an amazing group of volunteers. There are 400 volunteers overall that we have had in operation prior to COVID, and that amounts to about 5 full-time positions. So let me now move to the proclamation. The City of Wilsonville Proclamation declaring the month of April 2021 as Volunteer Appreciation Month. whereas the month of April is recognized as the time to appreciate the hard work, dedication, and passion of volunteers throughout our nation, and whereas government alone cannot meet all of our nation's needs, so we partner with businesses, nonprofit organizations, and individuals to make a difference. And whereas citizens who volunteer their time provide assistance which cannot be measured in terms of dollars, volunteers provide a spirit of helping that multiplies in value when each citizen reaches out to assist another. And whereas volunteers throughout the city of Wilsonville donate their time to a wide variety of human service programs such as delivering meals to homebound seniors, teaching our children, planting trees, tending gardens, caring for others, and whereas citizens also donate their time in helping the city of Wilsonville through their service on city boards, committees, commissions, and task forces, and whereas volunteering and recognizing those who serve, we can promote partnership, understanding, and compassion in our community. Now, therefore, I, Julie Fitzgerald, Mayor of the City of Wilsonville, hereby do proclaim April as Volunteer Appreciation Month in the City of Wilsonville, and I urge my fellow citizens to volunteer in the community in the coming year, dated this 5th day of April 2021. We look forward to celebrating their service every year and hope to restart our volunteer appreciation event again next year. Thank you. Brian, City Manager, I just want to check in that is, I will be signing that proclamation. Are there any other steps to go along with that?
Nope, that's all we need, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, if they were here, we would have a cake and a big celebration probably. This is another great thing to celebrate is the 23rd consecutive Tree City USA designation and the Arbor Day proclamation. And I would like to welcome our guest, Cindy Luhoj. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name. Please give me a tip on the pronunciation.
I will. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So I'm Cindy Luxhoy, and I am an associate planner here at the city. And I'm here tonight for two reasons. First, to present the staff report for the Tree City USA and the 2021 Arbor Day proclamation. So staff is pleased to announce that the City of Wilsonville has been recognized for the 23rd consecutive year as a Tree City USA and for the third year as a Sterling Tree City USA, and has also received its 11th Growth Award as it designated by the National Arbor Day Foundation. This 23rd consecutive Tree City USA recognition reflects Wilsonville's continued commitment to maintaining and promoting its urban forest. The Growth Award recognizes the city's focused street tree inventory and community engagement activities as part of the Urban Forest Management Plan, revitalization of the city's heritage tree program, and our new sole source contract and neighborhood tree planting events with Friends of Trees. And then the second reason for my being here tonight is to provide council with a brief update on the status of our response to the winter ice storm that had devastating and widespread impacts on our urban forest. We've assembled a winter storm tree response team, which includes staff from planning, natural resources, public works, and parks and recreation to coordinate our response and a plan for replanting. As of March 31st, the Planning Division has received 62 applications for tree removal, and this represents 136 trees, 40% of which are street trees, and nearly all of the trees are deciduous. Our coniferous trees did much better. Some of the species that were particularly hard hit were the maples, plums, birches, and pears, which we lost quite a few of those. The tree response team has met twice so far. on March 11th and 26th. And we will continue meeting regularly in coming months as we work to repair and restore our city of trees. We're taking a three-pronged approach with initial focus on street trees to be followed by trees in parks and at city facilities. And steps include first updating the city's 2017 street tree inventory. Public Works has already initiated this step and is in the hiring process for 2 full-time interns for 6 months to update the city's tree inventory with an eye to identifying which trees have already or will need to be removed, which trees need further assessment or pruning, and which are healthy and undamaged. And next is assessing the damage based on permit applications that we've received, which Assistant Planner Georgia McAllister is tracking and processing, and then changes in the tree inventory as recorded by the interns. And then the third piece is beginning long-term reforestation efforts, which the team is already working toward. We met last week with Friends of Trees to identify dates for street tree replanting events in the fall and potentially in spring of 2022 as well. And the planting goal for each of those events is going to be 100 street trees. We're also working on how to further assist community members and how to provide helpful information in a variety of ways, such as through the Spring Fling events this month, through the city's website, and Let's Talk Wilsonville, in the Boonesbury Messenger, and with direct outreach and education. We'll provide periodic updates to City Council as we continue our winter storm tree response team efforts. And that wraps up what I had to say before the proclamation.
Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Just a minute, please.
Time for a question?
Councilor Lehan has a question.
Yes. You mentioned trees in parks and certainly street trees are absolutely critical. How about the parking lot forest, which we have done an excellent job of, with our code in establishing significant tree canopy with our requirements for parking lots. But I noticed driving around that some parking lots were much harder hit than other parking lots. And I'm not a good identifier of all these urban trees, especially when they have no leaves on them. But are we assessing which trees came through in terms of parking lot trees, and do we also follow up on the requirements for replacement in various parking lots?
Well, the focus of the work that the interns will be doing, as well as, kind of initially for us is city facilities, parks, and street trees. The street tree inventory pretty much just had street trees. And when it comes to trees on individual properties, that generally those are the responsibility of those property owners. So,
right, but they were conditions of approval.
Correct.
They were required to be, and some of them are ours. So, so one of the places that was hit pretty hard, had a lot of damage or breakage, was the Smart Lot.
Mm.
And so those are our trees.
Right.
And it seemed to have more damage, for instance, than Town Center. And so I don't know what the reason for that is. Is that a species issue or an age issue? I thought that the ones at the Transit Mall were pretty young, but they had quite a bit of damage.
Yeah. One of the things that we're going to be doing, so to answer that question, yes, once we get through the street, once the interns, depending on how much time they have, they'll go to street trees first, and then we'll work on city facilities, which SMART is, and then also, the parks, as they have time to do that.
Right.
Another thing that we're going to do is really look at, what was the damage to which species in particular, and review prior to the replantings in the fall, review our recommended list of trees to see if maybe we want to refine that some, to remove some that are particularly susceptible to this type of damage. And there's quite a bit of information, through Department of Forestry and Oregon Community Trees and Friends of Trees to help us refine that list so that going forward, we'll have hopefully a more resilient canopy to this kind of storm damage.
Perfect.
Thank you, Cindy.
Sure.
For that report. There's a lot to it, and I expect we should get some periodic follow-ups as you learn more from these resources.
Yep.
So I would like to, is this a good time for me to now read the proclamation, or did you want to read that?
Oh, no, you can read the proclamation,
Okay.
but I'm going to hang around because we have one more item after you read the proclamation that I need to introduce someone.
So I just want to make sure I'm doing this in the right order. Are we ready for the proclamation?
Yes.
Okay. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day was to be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of trees of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas in Oregon, Arbor Month is celebrated throughout the month of April. And whereas trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property taxes, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, and whereas Wilsonville has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for 23 consecutive years, and desires to continue its tree planting and maintenance practices. Now, therefore, I, Julie Fitzgerald, Mayor of the City of Wilsonville, urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I encourage all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Dated this 5th day of April, 2021. I will sign this. Thank you. All right. So,
just a minor correction. You read it as trees in our city increase property taxes.
oh my goodness.
When you meant to say increase property values.
May I reread that, please? Whereas trees in our city increase property value.
Yes.
We're going to have to give you a special award for noticing that.
Well, I mean, I guess you could argue they increase property taxes by increasing your property value, but they definitely increase your property value.
That was a Freudian slip because I'm going to file my taxes tomorrow. Okay, so I'm just looking at my agenda for just a minute here, if you'll bear with me. Back to the mayor's report, I just wanted to give a pretty brief recap as we as we expect during the mayor's report on what the mayor has been doing since the last meeting. And I don't want to give you too many lists of meetings. There have been many, many meetings. So I batched them up, and I want you to know that I met with several, I think there were 6 different meetings in the last 2.5, 3 weeks with groups of mayors. The Metropolitan Mayors Consortium Executive Committee met 3 times. The Metropolitan Mayors Group itself met once. Clackamas County mayors, Washington mayors, and there was also a group of the French Prairie Forum that included some other mayors down south. And what are all of these mayors talking about? We were talking a lot about, as you might imagine, the pandemic and economic impacts of the pandemic, the ice storm, the wildfires, what we can do to prevent them. So there are a number of discussions in that direction. And also met with the C4 committee, which is Clackamas County cities, and some city councilors came to that meeting, and as well as the Clackamas County Business Alliance. There were a number of meetings about bills in the legislature, and I would just say, in summary, a lot of good discussions about how, while our cities are not all the same by any means, we do have some common interests. There's a lot of interest in making sure that our cities maintain their voice and home rule, and lots of good discussion about ways to help people in a lot of different avenues regarding the effects of the pandemic and the wildfires. I wanted to just say a little bit about the vaccinations too. I just have been talking with some citizens who have been from Wilsonville, and I've talked with them several times. They have been meeting with the Clackamas County Health Department officials, and their effort, their focus is to see what they can do and what we can do with them to help spread the word about opportunities for vaccinations and making sure that our BIPOC community, Black, Indigenous, and people of color all have great ways and the best ways we can think of to find out where they can get those vaccinations. Do they need help with transportation, and so forth. And in hearing them talk about that, I know there are a lot of citizens who've been helping their neighbors, their friends, their family get themselves signed up for vaccinations. So it's really great to see. That's another way of volunteering that we're seeing in our community. And as they develop some additional ways of really sharing the word and kind of making it easier for people, we will let you know. In the state of Oregon, I just noticed today on a report, the latest report was that 1.2 vaccinations had been given in the state of Oregon, and close to 750,000 people have been fully vaccinated. So that's really great. And then, as a lot of people know, we do have one of those mass vaccination sites here in Wilsonville that people are using. Mostly happens on Wednesday for Clackamas County residents, and they've been doing about 1,000. When they have that clinic on Wednesdays, they administer about 1,000 vaccines. They have some volunteers helping them as well. It's Tuolumne Valley Fire and Rescue that's managing that at the Clackamas Community College campus here in Wilsonville. So I'm just really proud that we're able to do that. And TVF&R expects that they will probably do they'll do a little more than 58 vaccinations in April. I think I also wanted to share that we are getting ready for our council goal setting. I had a few meetings this month about that with the city manager and just researching the best ways that we can put that together, and all of the councilors will be hearing more about that, and we'll work together to have a very good goal setting. And then one other meeting I wanted to report on, I met with the some city staff and with Dr. Tim Cook, who's the president of Clackamas Community College, along with one of their board members who lives in Wilsonville, Aaron Woods. And we were looking at, what's on the future for Clackamas Community College, what kinds of things are they planning, and what's on the horizon with the city. These two entities have met once a year for a little while here, and I think we'll be meeting with them again to hear some of the ways that we can reinforce each other's strengths. With that, I would like to move to the communications section of the meeting, and we will hear about the 2021 Oregon Urban and Community Forestry Award. And I would like to introduce Morgan Holan, who's going to talk with us about that.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is Morgan Holan, and I'm here this evening as a member of the Board of Directors for Oregon Community Trees. Oregon Community Trees is a nonprofit organization that serves as the state's Urban and Community Forestry Advisory Council. Our board works closely with the Oregon Department of Forestry's Urban Forest Program, and our mission is to promote healthy urban and community forests through leadership, education, awareness, and advocacy all across the state. For 20 years, Oregon Community Trees and the Oregon Department of Forestry have recognized individuals and organizations who do the often unsung work of improving our communities through their community forestry efforts. Award recipients are nominated by Oregonians eager to recognize the important contributions of their neighbors and colleagues to urban trees and forests. In celebration of Oregon's urban and community forests, the 2021 Oregon Urban and Community Forestry Awards are being presented to inspirational individuals and organizations for promoting tree planting and care, engaging citizens, raising awareness about urban trees and forests, and protecting Oregon's forests. On behalf of Oregon Community Trees and the Oregon Department of Forestry, I am honored to present a 2021 Oregon Urban and Community Forestry Award for outstanding leadership in promoting urban and community forestry to Wilsonville City Councilor Charlotte Lehan. As a local consulting arborist doing work in Wilsonville, and as a Wilsonville resident myself, I know firsthand that Councilor Lehan's leadership and accomplishments in advancing urban and community forestry are inspirational, both in Wilsonville and throughout the state of Oregon. I'd like to share with you a long list of those accomplishments. Councilor Lehan has lived in Wilsonville nearly her entire life and has served the city as an elected official and volunteer for over 3 decades. In the early 1990s, Councilor Lehan was a founding member of the local grassroots environmental group Friends of Goal 5, related to planning for and preserving natural resources, scenic and historic areas, and open spaces in Wilsonville. As mayor, she was instrumental in the adoption of the city's Tree Preservation and Protection Ordinance and the citywide Goal 5 Metro Title III Endangered Species Act compliance plan, which resulted in the adoption of Wilsonville's Significant Resource Overlay Zone. In 2004, Mayor Lehan founded the city's Heritage Tree Program. And this program recognizes historical significance of trees or trees that were planted by or in honor of someone who advanced the interest of trees and plants in our community. She continues to serve on the local Heritage Tree Program Committee today. Councilor Lehan was appointed to the Oregon Heritage Tree Committee of the Oregon Travel Information Council in 2000, just 5 years after that committee was formed, and she continues to serve the Oregon Heritage Tree Program in this capacity today. Councilor Lehan served as a member of the Blue Ribbon Committee that selected crown jewel sites as part of the Metro Green Spaces Bond Measure, leading to the opening in 2010 of Graham Oaks Nature Park with the replanting of 15,000 Oregon white oaks. She has nominated and seen dedicated 3 Oregon heritage trees. These include the R.V. Short Douglas Fir in Wilsonville's Maryfield Neighborhood Park in 2014. And in 2019, the Willamette River Cable Trees, a black cottonwood, and a Douglas Fir in the city's Memorial Park. In 2020, Councilor Lehan's nomination of the Stein Walnut Orchard in Wilsonville's Neurosci Plaza to the Oregon Heritage Tree Program was successful. This dedication of the grove hasn't happened yet due to COVID, but there will be a celebration there as soon as we can. Councilor Lehan has ensured that the natural environment is central to the work of the city as part of planning the community. For example, during her tenure, the Villebois plan development containing a significant amount of existing trees was approved with a design that seamlessly integrates the trees into the fabric of the urban form, creating an award-winning and highly livable 500-acre community. Over many years as an elected official, Councilor Lehan has reviewed and approved dozens of land use applications where large trees, often Oregon white oaks, are protected on development sites throughout the community, forever shaping Wilsonville's landscape and the urban forest. Councilor Lehan is a staunch advocate for preserving large, healthy, white oaks and heritage trees community-wide, and this was evidenced by her successful nomination in 2017 as a Three Sisters Oak to Wilsonville's Heritage Tree Program. These trees range in age from 160 to 210 years old and stand in a stately row on private property west of Wilsonville. On behalf of Oregon Community Trees and the Oregon Department of Forestry, I am pleased to present the 2021 Oregon Urban and Community Forestry Award to Councilor Charlotte Lehan. Thank you for all your work and especially for your dedication to urban and community forestry in Oregon. Congratulations, Councilor Lehan. Here's your award.
Okay, well, thank you. I already just got it. By the magic of Zoom, it zoomed right over here.
That is magic. Congratulations.
Interesting. So there it is. So thank you very much. This is it's a beautiful plaque. All wood with this laser cutting. It's just amazing. But so it's a beautiful, beautiful plaque. I really appreciate it and appreciate all the work. And I have worked with Morgan now for a number of years. She was instrumental in the RV short thing. She came out and measured and aged the darn tree. And so I count on her to do my technical arborist things that I'm not very proficient at. But thank you very much. And I don't want to take up you took up a lot of time to just chatter about all of those things. But I am very appreciative of the city of Wilsonville, our staff. Chris Namsu has been absolutely fabulous from when he first came on board. And then we have had a policy of hiring arborists, not to be an arborist and sit in an office, but looking for people in public works and planning and other positions who were certified arborists. So they are essentially embedded in the employment structure at Wilsonville, and I think that makes a big difference in how we approach taking care of our urban forest. So anyway, I'm very, very appreciative of how well the city of Wilsonville has done in that regard. And I think that people are very appreciative. When I would ask people what they liked about the city of Wilsonville, invariably they would say, well, it's so clean and it's so green. And I guess that's because of all the trees. It was, but clean and green was always at the top of the list about what people liked about living in Wilsonville. And so that's, it's kind of a subconscious recognition that trees make a big part of the quality of neighborhoods and of cities. So the ice storm, I would just say about this ice storm, it made us aware of the trees in our midst, the ones we lost, the ones that broke our heart that went down, and but also the ones that need more care or we need to rethink. And as Cindy was saying, it is an opportunity for us to reassess what trees are, we need to, which ones are better, we're better served with in the future. So that's why I brought up about the parking lot trees, is not so much we need to get in and fix all these parking lots, but that's a lot of one species in many cases where you can look at them and say, well, these did well and these not so well. So maybe we need to reassess about that also. So anyway, a lot of opportunity in a devastating to the urban forest situation as we move forward to replace them. So I'm really happy that we are aggressive about getting a program in place.
Well, congratulations, Councillor Lehan, on your award. It's well-deserved. And thank you, Morgan and Cindy, for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, and it is very well deserved, Councillor Lehan. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would now like to move to a presentation by Tuolumne Valley Fire and Rescue Chief Weiss, who will discuss the state of the district. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Fitzgerald and Council. I am switching to a share. They're really going to test my skill set tonight, I have a feeling. How is that?
Excellent.
Fantastic. It seems like I saw you not too long ago, but I'm always happy to be back. And of course, my name is Derek Weiss. I'm the fire chief for Tuolumne Valley Fire and Rescue. And full disclosure, yes, I am a citizen of Wilsonville and proud to be. So it's fun hearing all the different things that are going on within the city. You'll notice the date on my PowerPoint. I hope you don't mind, I'm a little early for this particular presentation. But today is a chance for me to do what we typically do annually with all of our cities, and that is present a state of the district and what's going on with the fire district. I know I've been here before talking about COVID, and I will talk a little bit about COVID and the state of the district tonight, but we'll also cover some of the here and now and then some of the future as it relates to the fire district. And I'll go through these slides for all of you. The first one I want to show you is this is actually a picture of what we would dress in the heat of COVID. And actually, some still wear a white jumpsuit because they feel comfortable with it. It's easier to keep them clean. But when COVID hit, we immediately started our COVID-19 task force. And we had groups of people that came up with how do we respond in a pandemic and what do we do? And as you know, we're not used to a pandemic either. So we implemented new protocols and we responded to calls in PPE that we don't normally wear. We closed our facilities. Our facilities continue to be closed, but we want to make sure that we had a seamless response to 911, which is why sometimes we look like we were hazardous materials technicians, not first responders. But that's what we had to do to continue to be safe. In this picture is our previous logistics facility, and this is all the different equipment and PPE that we had to use. Our communities are used to TBF&R being prepared, being ready, and being helpful. But in this particular case, we had to look to our friends, our cities, our businesses to help us, because what we found out was the supply chain for PPE was very difficult and somewhat broken. We had help from Tigard and Tuolumne School District. We had help from Home Depot. We had help from just private citizens dropping off PPE that we could use so that we could safely respond to emergencies during COVID-19. And I have to tell you, as a fire chief and been with the organization for over 30 years, it's truly humbling to ask for help and to receive the kind of outpouring from our communities that we did. So obviously a thank you to our community and other communities that we serve. The picture you have here, and I don't know if the pictures of us kind of block some of it, but during COVID-19, we couldn't do the typical things that we did before. We couldn't go to parties, we couldn't go to celebrations, we couldn't see our neighborhood associations. And so we tried to do different things to reach out to the communities. This is one of them. This is actually a drive-through or drive-by birthday party. And those kind of popped up around the district, and they would call and invite us to be a part of a drive-through where relatives, family and friends and the fire department could drive by with the lights on and wave at the kids. We did the Wilsonville High School graduation last year, which was certainly different, but it was happy that the seniors could actually have a sending off and receive their diplomas. We were there for that. So we look for creative ways that we can help out and be seen in the community. In February, we celebrated Cardiac Arrest Save that happened in Wilsonville, and that highlights a local doctor and his wife in Wilsonville that helped save a life. If you want to see the video, and I'll tell you, it is touching, it's on our social media, either TVFNR, Facebook, or Instagram. You can find that. We are working with your city to support your annual Citizens Academy, and as state health considerations allow us, we'll do what we can to be a part of that with you. I hope maybe you won't recognize this, but for some of you, this is actually the Clackamas Community College facility in Wilsonville off East Town Center Loop. And what you see here is actually the COVID pod, vaccination pod, set up and operating, bringing people through. We started vaccinations in December, and we were actually at our North Wilsonville Fire Station, kind of by Costco there. But we realized that we couldn't do massive vaccinations in a functioning, working fire station, and quite frankly, we didn't have the room. Now, I'm not really sure how long Mr. Cosgrove has been with Wilsonville. I think it's over 6 years, I'm guessing. I've been with the fire district for over 30, and for the first time in that time, I actually opened up my contacts in my cell phone, hoping to find Mr. Cosgrove's number, which I did, and I cold called him, and I said, I need your help. We need to find a facility in Wilsonville that we are able to use to up the vaccine doses that we can give and welcome in more people that want to receive their vaccines. And I will tell you, he and other city workers helped us in less than 48 hours. I think we had identified a location that they found for me. They helped make that connection. And now here we are with an agreement with Clackamas Community College and the city to be here and give vaccinations. So we will continue to do so. I think you mentioned that Wednesdays are typically our day in Wilsonville, where we give 1,000, 1,150 doses each week, and we will continue to do so. We do 1 to 2 days at the Nike campus in Beaverton, and then we still do 1 day in McMinnville, where we do about 1,000 in all those places each and every day. So I can't tell you how thankful I am for our relationship and the help that you gave me. I do appreciate it. Thank you for that. We will continue to work in our counties and get our vaccinations and continue to vaccinate more people. You mentioned earlier that we're doing quite a few vaccinations in the month of April. The number of vaccines we've done thus far is 35,000 vaccines. So there isn't another fire department, certainly not yours, that is giving 35,000 vaccines. And I'm so proud of our people. And as you mentioned, volunteers, because we cannot do this without volunteers. And I think when you toured the pod, Mayor, one of the things I mentioned was that we're a large organization. You're a well-staffed city. There are other big organizations in the area, but we couldn't do it by ourselves. It absolutely takes all of us, and it takes volunteers from all over. So we continue to have volunteers come in and help us deliver the vaccinations. We'll continue to help vaccinate the communities that we serve, and we will continue to do so under the guidance of the counties that we live in. So that will continue on. This is a picture from the wildfire on Shahala Mountain and Bald Peak area. This could very easily be anywhere in our district in September last year. And as you're well aware, the wildfires became extremely real in our area, in our backyard. We had the largest wildfire in fire department's history on Shahala Mountain last year. It was over 800 acres. It was something we had not seen before. It was fire spread and fire behavior that we have not seen within this district. And I hate to say that it could happen again. And so we have to continue to support new equipment, new training, and new code that helps us fight these fires. Because I will tell you that the fires on Shahala Mountain, some was because of weather, some was because of defensible space, some was the hard work by the firefighters and the citizens, and some was just luck. But nobody was seriously injured, no homes were lost, no animals were lost. So we're very proud of that. We also sent crews to Clackamas County to fight the fires in Clackamas County on the east side. And we sent crews down to California as well last year to the August Complex Fire in Mendocino National Forest, and that was in October. We've done that, I believe, every year for at least the past 5 years. So we reach within the district now, and we also go outside the state. This is more of a typical state of the district data set that I would bring to you, and it tells you a lot of different things. I'll just point out a few. The first is for calls for service within the city of Wilsonville, it actually declined very slightly this past year. We think that has mostly to do with COVID, people staying at home, not as much traffic, driving, and sometimes people just being afraid to call 911. They'll just be sick for a little while rather than risk it thinking maybe they would get COVID. So we know that the call volume has bounced back. The calls for service are definitely there again. And as you can see in the pie chart in the middle at the bottom, days of the week, it's pretty consistent in Wilsonville. Every day is pretty much the same calls for service and the same call volume. So that's been how it's followed. The data's followed that for the past 5 years. We will continue to monitor data, and this is just simply one data set that we use that helps guide our decisions on deployment. I'm not sure you can see the heat map on the right of your screen. What it does is it goes from gray to blue to purple to an orange, yellow, red. And those are typically the hot spots for call volumes. And as you might know on this particular chart, it highlights assisted living in Charbonneau, assisted living in Wilsonville in two separate areas. And those are typically, they have a fair amount of call volume, which leads us to why we need another station in the area. Go to the next slide. So one of the things we've been working on is our capital improvement projects. This is our brand new logistics service building. You might recall that our command and business center and our fleet and facilities and supply was on a campus in Aloha. We sold that property and we wanted to condense those three services into one building to gain some efficiencies. We found a building off of Avery Street in Tuolumne, which is much more centrally located for the fire district. And we were able to reconfigure and rebuild, remodel this structure to have all three in one place. So now we have fleet, facilities, and supply all in one centralized location. This is the supply area of the building. This is bigger than the entire building that supply had at our previous campus site. It's going to gain us a lot of efficiencies, ability to store more equipment, and hopefully be ready for things like pandemic and wildfires in the future. And by the way, it is seismically upgraded so that it'll stand there if there's a big earthquake. I hope you know what this building is. This is the center down in Charbonneau, just outside of Charbonneau, right off of I-5. And this is currently being remodeled for our new Station 54, which is in Charbonneau. And while there was a slight setback, we are anticipating opening by June 1st, if not slightly before. This building on the backside that you can't see in that center area where our station will be, it had some mold on the walls. And so the owner and others had to mitigate this. So we were waiting for that mitigation. We were still on track to get the station open. And I know people are super excited about opening it, as am I. But it delayed us just slightly. So as we look to the beginning of April, sometime towards the end of May, 1st of June, that's what we're hoping for. I know the city has been very helpful getting this moving, and I hope they help us bring it across the finish line. I think there was one last question on the apparatus shelter, but hopefully that gets resolved, and then we can move in coming June 1st. This will move an apparatus from the Station 52 in Wilsonville. It's a rescue. It will have firefighters, and I know that Captain Gary Reed, who's our newest captain, will be the captain of this station. He's already been involved outreach in the Charbonneau area. He's worked with some of the citizens there. They had a lot of questions about emergency preparedness and meetings. So we brought in our acting emergency manager to help with some of those. And we pointed them in the right direction for some resources that they can use in the future to work on emergency preparedness. This station will last us at least 5 years, and as you also know, and I've told you before, we will continue to look for sites in the Charbonneau area where we can build and establish a more traditional firehouse. This is a lease that we have on this particular site, but we are certainly excited to place it. And hopefully you've seen the sign that's out front too. So one of the things that's coming in the future is firefighter recruitment. And we're currently recruiting for our next firefighter academy and our paramedic academy, which are two different things. We developed a rank in the system that's paramedic, so we can bring in paramedics that are skilled in emergency response. They ride on medics typically and cars, and what they can do is provide advanced life support in a hurry. But they can also promote to firefighter paramedic. So in the coming months, we're doing a kickoff to do outreach and recruitment to try and find the next generation of firefighters for Tuolumne Valley Fire and Rescue. And I think what you'll see is first of next year will be our first academy, and then not long after that will be our next firefighter academy. We didn't have any academies last year for various reasons, but we're looking forward to the ones that are coming. If you haven't seen our recent firefighter profile, check out our social media feeds because they did an impressive video that shows what it is to be a firefighter and what it takes to become a firefighter, and just the fact that it's opening and welcome to everyone. So next year for both of those academies, and we truly look forward to bringing on the next generation of firefighters for TVF&R. So this is a picture of our new interactive map, and hopefully you can see most of it, but one of the most common questions we get at the switchboard is, can I burn? Is a burning day, am I allowed to burn? And so in order to reduce the number of phone calls and provide a more easy access for our citizens, we created this interactive map that allows you to click down to where you live and be able to determine whether or not you can burn on that particular day. We patterned this interactive map after our ISO map. One of the other questions that we get very commonly is what is the ISO rating for my house? And so we created an interactive map for that as well, where you can click on the map where your house is and find out what your ISO rating is for your house. We're trying to create efficiencies and trying to make things that are much more accessible to the community that we serve. So you can access this map from our website as well. So what's coming ahead? A bond measure in November of this year. And at one point we talked about, I think we talked about this before, I don't know if we talked about the date, but our board decided that we would go for a bond measure in November of 21. And what that means to the voters in our area is that one of our bonds falls off, and the current rate is 14.1 cents per thousand, and this will essentially replace that. So our taxpayers should see no difference in their tax for this year. The bond, I think I have another slide on the bond. So the headline for the bond this year is the training center. The training center is located off of Tonquin Road. It's the same training center that I started with 30 years ago. And it's in dire need of upgrade and remodel and seismic improvements. So the training center is a big item that we were put in our bond for this year. We also have many stations, some that are new, some that are remodeled, some that need seismic upgrades. And we're going to purchase land looking forward so that we buy now, and then we'll be able to build in areas that we know will develop, and we'll be able to have a station that can service that area in a timely fashion. In addition to that, we also have apparatus that we have to purchase. And I know this is somewhat of an ongoing thing, but as the fleet ages, we have to replace it in a timely fashion so that it's ready and able to respond to fires and emergencies in your area. The bond will fund these projects and various others. And that gets me now and into the future, and I would be happy to answer any questions. I know that I have some other staff on this, so it's like your parents went to school with you, and they're looking over my shoulder to make sure I do a good job. So be really nice to me if you don't mind.
Thank you, Chief Weiss. So did you say you have other staff here at the meeting?
Yeah, typically my government affairs officers will watch along with everyone else.
Okay. Well, wonderful. That was a wonderful presentation, and I guess I'm sorry I kind of preempted some of the news. I was so excited and impressed about the all of the work at the vaccination center, and it really is great. So I thank all of you and all of your staff for everything you're doing at all of the vaccination sites. Does anyone have any questions?
Could I say one thing to that, Mayor? I'll tell you, I've been to every site except for McMinnville to observe vaccinations multiple times. I was there the day that you were touring as well. And for the firefighters and paramedics that are there, this is absolutely one of the most rewarding things they've done in their careers. They've saved lives, they've delivered babies, but lots of times you don't get feedback and you don't know what the outcome was or hear anything back. This is the one time where it's instant. They're happy, they're thankful. It's just so rewarding that we're able to do this. And there's a lot of the same people that continue to give vaccinations every day because they love that experience.
Well, that is great. I think what the citizens I was talking about want to do is they want to build on all of that and just do more to get the word out for people who might not be, they just haven't gotten there yet. They're thinking about it. Do they need a ride? What do they need? So it's all good. We're going to get ahead of this. So thank you. Any other questions or comments from the councilors? Councilor Linville.
Thank you, Chief, for the great report. So excited about all the things that you're doing. I've had a couple of questions about, just from citizens in Wilsonville when they've heard about the immunization center and the partnership between your department and Clackamas Community College. And so the one question that comes up is, who's giving the immunizations? And are you taking your firefighters and your paramedics offline to give those? And if they're doing that, then who's helping us out? So I haven't had a good answer for that. So maybe you could tell us.
That's a great question. And the answer is some of these people work their normal shift, and then when they get off shift, they've already signed up to work the vaccination pod. So they're doing both duties, if you will. Some are actually on what we call light duty. And so from any given moment, we could have up to 25 people that are injured, but they're not so injured that they can't do something. They just can't go back to the line. So actually, this is a fantastic use of their skills and abilities. We insert them into the vaccination pod. And so some of them are actually on days, if you will. They just work a normal 40-hour week rather than their shift work because they can't. So it's a great use of resources there. We also have, there's probably close to 100 day staff within our organization. They're also using some of their time to be at the vaccination pod as well and help out. So that's where they're coming from. There's the seats on the engines are still full. The seats on the rescue are still full 24/7. And this is just extra time and then some light duty time.
And the second thing is, are you in need of volunteers? And if so, how do people volunteer?
I don't think we are. And what they do is we have a whole branch. So we were well set up for a vaccination pod because we're used to the incident command system. So we had it set up and we have an incident commander of the pod. And I myself work through that incident commander to get them what they need. They reach back in. But they have the full support of the fire district. We have cities that have helped us out. We've had the county that's helped us out. So we don't really have a need for volunteers right now. And if that changes, though, I would certainly reach out.
Council President Ockervall had your hand up.
Thank you, and thank you so much for the presentation. You talked a little bit about recruitment and kind of the plans for the future with that. And I know that in the past, Tuolumne Valley Fire and Rescue has done, I believe, like a women's camp targeting especially for that population and bringing them into opportunities that might be at Tuolumne Valley or elsewhere. And so I'm wondering, has that been able to be adapted in some way virtually? I don't know if that's even possible because it sounded like it was such a hands-on kind of experience for people. Or what sort of programming have you been able to do to recruit, different distinct populations?
Thank you for that question, because I find that sometimes I do the broad stroke and I forget to be a little bit more specific, because we actually did do one last year, but it was more of that virtual basis. And we are doing the same thing this year, except for this year, we're actually going to put a little bit more of the hands-on in there. And staff has assured me that the way they have this set up and outside, that it's going to be safe for the participants and safe for the people that are instructing and helping. So we're actually going to be doing the same thing, and I'm super excited to tell you this part. We did even more outreach than we've done before for recruitment. But we brought in some of our new firefighters. They actually wanted to help out and find other ways where we can have outreach and get an even broader slice of the community that we serve, the communities that we serve. And they came in, they're young, college educated, lots of experience, a lot of contacts and outreach. And so on one side of it, they're reaching out to all of the colleges and some of the sports teams. I think they've got just about every college in Oregon that they've reached out to and started developing a program. And then on other sides, for women in protected class, they were more focused on that and what groups do we have to target and how do we get there. They got in my head and they figured out exactly what I wanted to do and how I want to make the district in the future, and they're executing perfectly. And so I'm super excited about what the next two academies look like. But yes, we are continuing to do the women's camp or girls camp, and that will happen again. It might be modified this year, but we'll be right back at it again next year.
Thank you. Councilor Lehan.
Yes, so the question I get most often is, how do I sign up for a vaccine if I haven't gotten one yet? And can I go to the one in Wilsonville, because that's a lot closer than the Portland airport.
Yeah.
So who is eligible to go there?
Yeah, so that was one of the things that we talked about early on, and I had a conversation with the mayor about it too. We worried that because we had a footprint in Wilsonville, that people would think you can just go to Wilsonville because it's in Wilsonville. And the reality of what we did from the beginning was we always worked with the counties. So our direction, our patients, if you will, all come from the county. And the county sets it up. They give us exactly how many vaccine doses we need for this particular group of people. They set up those people, and then they come in. The only one we did that was more on our own was law enforcement and other fire agencies, which we did most of the region. That was, we would get the doses from the county, but we would be more active in setting up those vaccinations. So you can't just go to the site and sign up and get vaccinated. You have to work through your county, or I believe 211 is the system that some people are using, and I think some of those are actually available in Wilsonville now too, but I don't think it's any easier than any other place. That's the nature of what we're doing. But we've been very specific. We work with the counties tell us where to go, they tell us who's going to be there, they give us the doses, and that's how we do it.
Okay.
Thank you, for Councilor West.
Do they sign up to the Oregon Health Authority's website to get the vaccine? Do you distribute to theirs specifically through a county website? And can they are you guys doing the Johnson & Johnson one shot, or do they need to also be aware to come back to you guys in that time frame to get the second dose?
Excellent question. Thank you for that. I don't think we get doses directly from OHA. We didn't before. We were always through the county, primarily Washington County, Yamhill County, and a little bit of Clackamas County. So we didn't get doses directly from OHA. I don't know where you sign up on OHA, who you would get. Ours are always through the county, so they just set it up. So I don't know that there's I don't know if 211's doing it through the state, that they're setting them up at our site in Wilsonville yet. They may be in the future for eligible groups, which seems to be nearly everyone now. So I don't know if we're going to start to see more that are signed up through 211. Primarily, we're just getting ours through the county. To answer your second question, because we had a freezer, we were one of the first agencies, certainly fire agencies, that was able to get Pfizer doses. We started with Moderna, and now we have Johnson & Johnson. So at this site in Wilsonville, we can literally give any one of the three. Again, it's guided by who they set up to come in on that particular day, and then we will help with that.
Thank you. And we really appreciate you coming to our meeting today, Chief Weiss, and please extend our appreciation to all of your staff.
I will do so. And they reminded me that the girls' camp, so that was a question. The girls' camp is July 30th, 31st, and August 1st. And so it is going on, as always. Thank you so much for your time. I always appreciate being here. If you have any questions, send them my way, and myself or staff can certainly reach back out to you and get them answered. And before I leave, thank you again to the City of Wilsonville, Mr. Cosgrove, for helping Tuolumne Valley Fire and Rescue. We certainly appreciate the support and partnership.
Thank you. Stay safe. We'll now move to our citizen input and community announcements section of the meeting. This is an opportunity for visitors to address the City Council on items not on the agenda. It's also a time to address items that are on the agenda but are not scheduled for a public hearing. Staff and City Council will make every effort to respond to questions raised during citizens input before tonight's meeting ends or as quickly as possible thereafter. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And you can use the raise hand feature of Zoom to let us know you would like to provide comments. Do we have any comments?
Thank you for reading that script, Mayor. We have no public comment tonight.
Thank you. While I still have the floor, I want to say that I forgot one other thing on my report. We did not just talk about the pandemic. We also talked with all these mayors many different times about transportation and our freeways and roads. So you can learn more about that later. But I would like to now move to our councilor comments, liaison reports, and meeting announcements, starting with Council President Ackervall.
Thank you. Let's see, since our last council meeting, I attended Senator Wyden's Clackamas County Town Hall that happened, let's see, I think about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Also LOC's meeting, and coming up, let's see, we have the Westside Economic Alliance Forum, I believe, on April 12th. And I also, this is not a report from a meeting, but I guess a report on a community experience. During spring break, my family took a bike ride over to the library. And I know I've mentioned kind of some of the services that the library's been doing this last year in the adaptations that they've been able to make during the pandemic time period, and with the book bundles and, you know, the different things that they have. I did not realize, and so maybe there are other people that also did not realize, but the Wilsonville Library has their Library of Things, which I believe we've talked about in the past, where you can check out things, but the Library of Things is also still available and open. So there's a shelf area inside the library where you can check out items from the Library of Things. So we were able to get a board game that was fun to play during spring break. We got a radon test, checked out a radon test. That was a good science project, you know, as a family. To look at that and experiment with that. You know, the person in front of us was returning a metal detector to the Library of Things. The range, there was a crochet kit. The range of resources and goodies for Wilsonville residents to look for is quite broad. So that might be something fun to check out, because you just don't know what you're going to find there in that shelf of Library of Things. So I encourage people to check that out. It's a pretty cool resource. And of course, that is free. And it looks like Councilor Lehan is, spread the word about the Imagination Library. Is that what you're holding up there?
Doris Martin, the baby thing. that you can get a free book mailed to your child from birth to 5 years of age. Every month they get a free book to keep it. So it's a fabulous program, but I don't mean to interrupt you, but since you were talking about these library things, I just don't happen to know that many people with babies and toddlers. So if you have a baby or know someone who has a baby, tell them to get in touch with the library and sign up for this. A book will come in the mail to your child for 5 years every month. So it's fabulous.
It is fabulous. It's another one of the cool things that our library provides. So thank you. That is it for me. Oh, or maybe somebody else wants to talk about, I don't know, the Trillium drive-through event that is happening this week. I believe it's happening on the 8th from 4 to 6 p.m. And that is at our Parks admin building. It's part of the Spring Fling programming for the month, which we've already talked about a couple times tonight. So, but that's happening on April 8th. And I think that's a really cool event as well that is free for Wilsonville residents to go and pick up a Trillium flower. So, yeah.
Wow, great. So I will now move to Councillor Lehan.
Yes, well, I've taken up way too much time tonight, so I will just have a couple of things to say that are not political at all. They're about sports. So, and I already talked to the city manager about this, but we do have a star in our midst here. If you're watching March Madness or have watched March Madness, I don't even know where the game is tonight, but a Wilsonville star was a part of the Oregon State team, in case you were watching. Zach Reichel? Yeah. How you say his name? Correct. Zach Reichel, a Wilsonville High School graduate of 2017, was on the OSU team, and he was a key player. And here was OSU. They were 12th seed, and they made it into the Elite Eight. And he was just a fabulous star player. This is a local Wilsonville guy who has really done great for us, and they were announcing him as from Wilsonville, Oregon.
Not Portland, which they always do that for some reason.
Yeah, no, it was fabulous. So if we have an opportunity, I think we should invite him in sometime and give him a round of applause, an award, I don't know, something. But the other thing that we should be aware of is, I know it is the end of basketball season, but oddly enough, this is also football season. We're in the middle of spring football. We're at the end of spring football, actually. And both Wilsonville and West Lynn are 5-0. I mean, West Lynn is at the top. They're in two different leagues, but West Lynn is at the top of football in the whole state of Oregon. And of course, for anyone in Wilsonville who graduated from high school before 1995, we are all alumni of West Lynn. So we are dually aligned here between West Lynn and Wilsonville, but both of them have 5-0 records in spring football, which is a brand new thing we didn't used to have. But because of COVID, they did not have a fall football season. So anyway, we have fabulous kids playing for us at every level here.
Well, thank you, Councillor Lehan. I'm going to move to Councillor West, and I will ask him to share, if you don't mind, Councillor West, about some football news you shared with me.
Well, that makes me, I get to be a bragging dad then.
Because I asked you to do it. Yes.
So I'm glad that Councillor Lehan brought up the Wilsonville football program. They are 5-0, and they play Baylor at Baylor on Friday as their last game. My son, Jay, was called up to be a varsity player as a freshman, which I'm told never happens. And he is the only freshman to ever score a touchdown. And he did it in his first game, like a 16-yard run or something like that.
Hey.
I know, so we're a big football family here. Go Wildcats. And it's exciting to see them get to play again. And all the hard work these guys put into. The culture within the football program is something so amazing. So, for example, they had a game on Friday night. The next morning, generally after a game, the players would get together a big potluck after a game with the parents in the cafeteria if it wasn't COVID. And that hasn't been happening, but that does happen generally. The next morning, all the boys get up early on a Saturday, the whole varsity team, and they go for a run and have breakfast together. Just this culture of the hard work and the teamwork and the sportsmanship that they all put in is absolutely amazing to watch. And the JV squad, I know that there's a lot of young players out there. They went undefeated, and their last game was against Canby. They called it, I want to say it's the Charbonneau rivalry or the Charbonneau, it's called the Charbonneau something game. And it hadn't happened in a while because the kids that live in Charbonneau are in the Canby School District. So that was a fun game to watch. Our school board, kudos to them. Chelsea King, Christy Thompson, and the other ones on the school board worked really hard with the parents in the community who advocated and petitioned to figure out a safe and great way for all of us to be able to go to the games. So we all got tickets, and it was social distance, and everyone respected it. And I was really impressed and so thankful for those local leaders that stepped up and made those efforts so that families could cheer on their kids. I got to be there to see my kid do well this year, and I know a lot of other families are super appreciative of that. And so, yes, a lot of my time has been youth football related, and it's been a joy. I guess on the city council business that I've done, and thank you, Mayor, for letting me brag on my kid a little bit. I'll do it anytime you want. So on the city front stuff, I got to join Councilor Linville at the Metro Enhancement Committee, where where the board was established, and so the board's established, and we were started to work on the process of applicants, and we're going to do a little more going forward. So that was a lot of fun. And then I'm going to be doing the I think it's a C4 subcommittee later this month. So involved in some stuff outside of the city business, and I look forward to doing those things, and I'll report back later. Thanks for the time to catch you guys all up.
Sure. And
let me just interrupt and say, I just saw it on my phone. I presume maybe the city manager did also, that Baylor beat Gonzaga.
I did see that, Councilor Lehan. Good on
86-70, Baylor over the Zags.
And I just want to clarify, I think Councilor West said that Wilsonville plays Baylor next week. I think what he meant to say was they I don't think they...
Barlow. Baylor just won.
Baylor just
I was going to say,
book a flight to Texas. I want to say...
No.
Wilsonville is really knocking it out of the park. They're going to the major leagues. Okay. Well, it's all good. I would like to ask Councilor Linville to give us a little report, please.
Well, I'm going to be very brief. I attended last month my first C4 Metro Subcommittee meeting, and I was actually very pleased that Trent Wilson, who is the facilitator for that subcommittee and for a lot of others, for the C4 coordinating committee as well, I gave a little orientation about all of those Metro subcommittees, and I was very pleased to see where that C4 Metro subcommittee falls in the whole organization. And I would be happy to forward the slides to any counselors that are interested, but particularly for that subcommittee that I serve, that I have been assigned to serve on, we make recommendations to the Joint Policy Advisory Committee and to the Transportation Policy Alternatives Committee. And in essence, we don't make any decisions, we just give recommendations to C4. And so it is, it's actually a really wonderful opportunity to get to meet and discuss issues with colleagues that are representing the other communities in our metro, in our C4 area. And the next meeting that I will attend will be on April the 14th. And then I just wanted to follow up with Councillor Ackervall's comments that I think it's, you know, we wonder in these days of pandemic if there's anything going on, and our city has just been wonderful about continuing to have events and things going on. We did it in the fall when we were right in the height of the pandemic. And the Spring Fling is a month-long list of events. And so I would encourage people to just Google Wilsonville Spring Fling, and you'll see the whole calendar for the month of all of the events that are happening. Still trying to keep our community engaged and moving on, and I think it's really kind of exciting that there's a goat petting event on the last day of the month of April, which is pretty exciting, and it's going to be in Memorial Park at 10 o'clock, so don't miss it. It's one of the highlights, I think, for me anyway. And then I just wanted one final thing, and I know that all of the council does not get a copy of the Charbonneau Villager, but the president of the Charbonneau Country Club specifically called out City Manager Cosgrove and City Councilor Lehan and myself in terms of really giving kudos to the degree of assistance that the city provided to Charbonneau during that very difficult ice storm, and making sure that we were, so the community of Charbonneau was kept on a priority in terms of getting power back and making sure that the community stayed safe. So I wanted to be sure that that council and staff knew that they were very much appreciated for the work that was done. And that is the end of my report, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councillor Linville. We will now move to the consent agenda. Will the city attorney please read the consent agenda?
Resolution number 2887, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract with Braun Construction for the Old Farm Road Phase 1 project, and minutes of the March 15, 2021 City Council meeting.
Is there a motion on consent agenda as read?
Your Honor, I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Is there a second? Councilor Linville. The motion has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 The motion passes 5-0. Now we will move to new business, and we do have an item that we moved ahead from our work session, and I appreciate staff staying to talk about this, and I think, can we move to that one next?
Actually, the city attorney made the point that the presentation he was going to give was on the item that's under new business. So it made some sense to move the item, to have the presentation moved to new business under the regular agenda. So I think he's just going to give you a report on Resolution 2888.
So I'll read the resolution and then he can do his report.
Will the city attorney please read the resolution?
Resolution number 2888, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services contract with Angelo Planning Group, Inc. for Frog Pond East and South Master Planning.
And so now I'm going to do the vote and we'll do the discussion, or do you want to do this first separately?
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Better do this.
We got ahead of ourselves. So go ahead and ask for a motion in a second on consent. Approve that. Mr. Pauly stuck around because he's under new business. So under the work session, he was just going to give a brief report for the main report he was going to give under that Resolution 288. So my mistake, just approve the consent and then we'll move on to new business. We only have one item.
She's saying they did.
Oh, it's all done?
No.
Okay.
We already approved the consent.
Never mind then. Disregard.
So we can go with Mr. Pauly's report. Okay.
Yes.
I thought I was the one that was supposed to make it confusing.
No, my oxygen flow to my brain just is a little off with this mask on. You guys don't have to wear a mask.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pauly.
All right, I guess I will go now. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Dan, thanks for sticking around.
It's okay. I was not in my office tonight, so it was a little easier sticking around. So, so just wanted to give you a bit of a background on what kind of the scope, the cost and the timeline that we're looking at for this project. Particularly wanted to spend some time on the scope and kind of explain how it's different from what we did for Frog Pond West and how it's similar. So first of all, a bit of background. What we're talking about here is the areas. I believe most of you have seen these maps many times, but we're talking about the east and the south neighborhood of Frog Pond, which are highlighted in blue here. And much of the project approach we're taking with this is similar to the Frog Pond West Master Plan that was adopted by the city in 2017, which in turn built on the Frog Pond area plan that was adopted for all three neighborhoods back in 2015. And some things this includes is defining and planning by sub-districts, looking at community elements like parks and streets, and the general approach to infrastructure financing through supplemental fees is all things that we're carrying forward from the West Neighborhood Plan. Even back in the area plan, Frog Pond East and South envisioned a broader mix of housing and a neighborhood commercial center, while Frog Pond West focused on single-family residential. So that's definitely a notable difference between these two master plan processes. In addition to the differences from the area plan, I wanted to highlight some additional context and requirements the project has that have come since 2017 from the city, metro, and the state. First of all, so I want to step through what we've gotten from metro, then what we've gotten from the state, and finally kind of how the Equitable Housing Strategic Plan relates to this project. First of all, when metro adopted an ordinance in 2018 to expand the urban growth boundary, it came with a number of conditions. It included, the area plan had actually discussed further study of middle housing, but the expansion actually required middle housing. This was before House Bill 2001 that this happened, so it didn't exactly mirror House Bill 2001, but got at some of the same ideas. Another requirement is that we explore encouraging ADUs, see what the barriers are and how we can encourage them to actually be built with the new development. Next is really around community engagement, including historically marginalized groups. And we've been working on that. I'm pleased that the consultant team actually reached out to Mariana Valenzuela, who has been working with us on the Latinx outreach with the Middle Housing Project, and included her on this team as well. to further that work that she's doing with us on engagement. And she's been great to work with. So look forward to working with the broader team and Mariana on the outreach with this project as well. Also, another requirement that will be quite a discussion when we get to it with council is consideration of the adoption of variable rate SDCs for a variety of housing. That was a specific requirement for Metro as well. And then finally, they required that we plan for at least 1,325 units. And then in 2019 came House Bill 2001 and subsequently the related rules. So how this relates, when they adopted the rules, after some discussion with them, they actually adopted some specific rules related to this type of new urban area. And so it does require middle housing be planned throughout these two neighborhoods. It also has a specific requirement that we plan for 20 dwelling units per acre for infrastructure. That doesn't mean that's what's going to be built in terms of the number of units, but that we plan that so that infrastructure doesn't become a barrier to middle housing. The state has promised to revisit this to see if 20 units per acre is the right number. So as part of the project, we're also looking at what infrastructure would look like at 13 to 15 units an acre, which is closer to the number of units that Metro requires us to plan for, and that the area plan was conceptualizing. And finally, the Equitable Housing Strategic Plan, in addition to an outreach component, which aligns with the Equitable Housing Strategic Plan, the project includes an affordable housing specific needs analysis and production strategy in response to direction in the housing plan. So that brings us to then how much is this going to cost? Grateful that Metro is supporting the project with a good-sized grant of $350,000, which will cover consultant services and some other expenses. There's still a large match from the city of $190,000, which will be primarily staff time for project management and involvement. And so the total is $540,000 is the total estimated project cost, including the consultant and city staff time. So we're getting this started now with a public kickoff this summer, and then we'll be working at it through the rest of this year and most of next year with an adoption goal by fall of 2022, and we're required by Metro to have it adopted by the middle of December 2022. So with that, happy to answer any questions you have on this project that I look forward to working with you on.
Let me see if I don't see any hands up yet. I did have a question on one of your slides. I don't know if you need to go back to it, but it was the one where you showed 20 units per acre. That was it. House Bill 2001 required a design or infrastructure for that?
Correct. So there was quite a bit of discussion with House Bill 2001 and how it's being implemented in this sort of scenario. That how do we know what type of infrastructure to put in? Because we don't want to overbuild infrastructure because that adds to housing costs. So what the state determined is, okay, we're going to tell cities of how many units per acre they have to plan for. Maybe they set it a bit high at 20 units per acre, but we're going to see what that infrastructure looks like, as well as what the infrastructure looks at with 13 to 15 units per acre, and kind of compare and give that feedback to the state of what is it going to cost to up it to 20 units an acre, and is that going to more add to housing costs or actually facilitate more housing?
Okay, are we one of the first? Are there any similar other developments in this phase in the state?
Yeah, I mean, there's the other UGB expansion areas in Hillsborough, Beaverton, and King City some of them are at slightly different, but are dealing with similar things. And we've been in contact with them throughout and collaborating with them in Metro as we work through some of these new rules and how they're going to be addressed.
So I guess what I wanted to clarify, is this a point of finding out through the process if we have to build for 20 or not, or is it a foregone conclusion?
So what the LCDC commission adopted was 20 units per acre, but part of that adoption was we're going to see, get some more technical information after cities work on it, and then they left it open to refining it back down if it just is not, doesn't get to the results that the House bill was looking for.
Thank you. Councilor West.
How does this associate with we just talked about option 1, 2, and 3, like I think it was 2 council meetings ago where we were talking about how to have this kind of pair up and match with House Bill 2001. So I guess my question is are we coming close to talking about making sure that we, like how we want to see this developed, or I don't know, does this at all play into what we just saw, what we just talked about a couple council meetings ago? I don't know if I'm being clear, but.
Yeah, no, I'm following you. So this is quite a bit different. So they actually wrote the state rulemaking considered existing master plans such as Frog Pond West and future master plans differently. And so that option 1, 2, and 3 was specific to Frog Pond West. So actually the compliance as it relates to House Bill 2001 is actually a lot more straightforward for East and South. And we'll be going through this whole process to kind of refine what that mix of housing looks like on the sub-district level and what are different design, siting and design standards that we can apply to get the neighborhoods that would work best for Wilsonville. And we will be returning on those Frog Pond West next work session. So,
Councilor Linville.
Mr. Pauly, I was really delighted to see in the scope of work and deliverables the amount of outreach, community outreach that is planned in the master planning process. I just had one question, and it's on Exhibit A. It's page 96 of 110 in our packet, and I didn't quite really understand under task 1.2 outreach scoping and community engagement plan, the sentence that says we recommend that task 1.2 create the plan and initial outreach described in the RFP, but in the reverse of the order identified in the RFP. So could you kind of just talk a little bit about what that means and why it's decided that it's different in the exhibit than in the RFP?
Let me pull it up in more detail. But I mean, the big idea is that when you're looking at doing outreach, you don't want to define it too much up front in terms of, having kind of a rigid set, this is really what we want. We want those outreach specialists and the communities that we're trying to reach out to help us define what the outreach is so we can best reach those communities. So that's really what it's getting at. So it's kind of like, it's a fine line when you're writing it into a more formal document like this, is you want to give enough specificity of what they need to do, of what the expectations are, but not give so much that you create a rigidity that prevents you from doing the outreach that you actually want to do.
Okay.
Any other questions? Council President Ackerval.
Thank you. And thank you for the presentation. I kind of had one question that kind of piggybacks on that, because I was also looking through that Exhibit A where it talks about the deliverables and different stages, you know, task 2.7, there's a number of places here. Excuse me, the final bullet for the deliverables is the outreach meetings, you know, and it'll maybe specify up to 10 or up to 5, and that one of them would be a community event or one of them would be an online survey or things like that. So I was wondering, what are the other, what if it's not all community events? Is it stakeholder meetings? Is it, you know, what are the different forms? And it sounds like from your previous response here that some of that may be determined through the process as you're finding out what's working and what's getting that feedback, you know, and it could manifest in different ways through the process. Am I understanding it correctly then?
Yes. And so, yeah, it can be a wide variety of strategies, and we want to leave it open where we can use a variety of strategies based on the expertise and what we're hearing from the communities, and also be able to, as we try things that we think we know how to do and we're not getting the results, that we have the flexibility to let's try something else, or we didn't, this group specifically was absent, so what do we need to do to reach that group?
Right, right. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
And I also noticed that on task 2.4, there was neighborhood commercial area evaluation. And I was very interested that that was included in this. And I'm, you know, just kind of reflecting in other developments within Wilsonville, and of course, have thought of Villebois and the small commercial area in Villebois, and I know there's a call from the community to have activity in that area, and you know, small coffee shops and cafes, or you know, things of that nature and stuff. And I'm wondering, is this a way to try to get out ahead of this and find what might be working in Frog Pond and kind of lay some of those foundations? Or can you talk us through that specific task a little more?
Sure. And yeah, it's really doing some market studies, kind of seeing right sizing the retail, and what else is mixed in with that retail, what type of retail. I think this is a little different than, you know, say the Charbonneau Village Center or the Villebois Village Center, is that it will have by nature more passerby traffic being at a major existing intersection, which can, I mean, historically drives retail visits. And so it's just looking at all aspects, both of what it is and how it's designed. So it's a pretty exhaustive look at all aspects to really try to, and we have certainly learned lessons from neighborhood retail that's happened or hasn't happened in Wilsonville, and all those lessons will be folded into this as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pauly, and I'm not seeing any more hands raised, so with that, help me out with a little bit of procedure here. Should I go back and ask the city attorney to read the resolution again?
No, you already read it.
No, you can just ask for a motion.
Okay. Councilors, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2888? Councilor President Ackerval.
I will move to approve Resolution 2888.
Do I have a second?
I will second that motion.
Councilor Lehan. We have a second. All in favor of Resolution 2888, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. I'm sorry. I really forgot to ask for discussion. May I back up? Is there any discussion on Resolution 2888?
No.
No. All in favor, raise your hand. Say it again, aye. I've got to do it right. Thank you. Aye. The motion on Resolution 288 passes 5-0. We have a request for a continuance to a date certain for ordinance numbers 847 and 848, which is a comprehensive plan amendment and zone map amendment for Canyon Creek subdivision. Do I have a motion to continue this hearing?
Miss Mayor, could you wait just a second? Is there anybody from the public on? Okay. All right. I just needed to.
We did want to check to see if we had anyone
that showed up for the public hearing. Yeah.
So should we go ahead for the vote?
Yes, ma'am.
No, we don't have a motion.
As long as there's nobody here, yes, you can do that. Oh, looks like
Your Honor,
Councilor Lehan.
yes, I would move that we continue to April 19, 2021, ordinance numbers 847 and 848.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilor West. We have a motion and a second to continue the hearings for ordinance 847 and ordinance 848 to date certain April 19th. Is there any discussion? Councilor West.
I don't know if this is where to ask questions or to review something, because I know that this is, we start to act in our judicial capacities. I know we all got an email from Concerned Citizen, and then I've gotten some text messages. I've been asked to be able to go out and take a look at what they think is being going on and their concerns. I want to make sure that, you know, I'm doing my due diligence and acting in the judicial sense, but what's the best way for me to have a better understanding about the concerns about this development, and then also like not overstepping my boundaries in the capacity in the judicial sense that I need to operate within. And I may be asking a question that other counselors and the mayor might have also.
Thank you. I'm going to ask our city attorney to answer that.
Sure, and the city manager can chime in too. But so that's the reason, Councilor West, that this was continued from the DRB. All of those questions were raised to several councilors, including yourself and the mayor as well, I believe. And staff also felt like they didn't have time to adequately address everything for a variety of reasons, as it notes in their staff report. So that's why the continuance. So the next step that we do here is the DRB hearing. And the continuance was to allow staff and the neighbors and the developer more time to work together to organize their questions and their concerns. So they'll have the DRB hearing, and then depending on what that outcome is, it could get appealed to you either by the citizens or by the developer or by no one, and at that point is when city council would step in.
So I would add that if you've exchanged text messages with folks and or emails that haven't hit our server, we need a copy of those because they are a part of the official record now. Because as an elected official, as a public official, you're part of the process. I always say the standard answer to anyone on council when you get a question about a land use application is to say I cannot comment or engage, because I may have to sit in a judicial fashion. But you can always refer people to the city staff, and we can certainly answer any questions about process, criteria, or findings. It's an easy out for you, plus it just keeps you clean. So we'll need a copy of the text messages and any emails that haven't hit our server, for the record. Yeah,
and the text messages to me, I asked for her phone number, I didn't comment on it. And so I can send you that screenshot, I'd be more than happy to, but I was careful not to really discuss it or get into it outside of on my personal cell phone.
All good, thank you.
However, one part of the question may not have been answered. And this is the one about can and should the counselors simply go to the site to observe without making any comments?
It's typical that you would do that if it's coming before you. It's certainly within your purview to go visit the site. You would just have to announce that you did visit the site when the public hearing is opened, and there's time for counselors to answer that question.
I think the other,
Because
the other part of the answer to that question is, of course, it may never come to you. It may just end at DRB, but if you are concerned or if people have raised concerns by calling you and asking you about this, even if you've appropriately answered, you know, I can't comment on that right now. You can still go investigate, look at the site, and then feel free to call staff if you see something that does concern you or that you would like to see specifically addressed by staff in the report.
So to recap, we are, you know, this is public information and information that we can review, but we're not taking part in the decision at this point.
Not yet, but with the level of citizen input and activity on this land use application, I'd say there's even odds that there's a probable appeal of some kind that might be coming to you. This one has attracted a lot of attention in the neighborhood, so I just advise you all to just be extremely cautious.
Thank you. If there are no other questions.
Looks like there's one more.
Oh, Councilor Linville.
I just want to clarify again with Ms. Jacobson and Mr. Cosgrove. You indicated that it was okay for us to go and familiarize ourselves with the site, but I thought I heard you say not to accept an invitation to be shown the site by neighbors. Isn't that what I heard you say?
I would personally decline any invitation from a citizen who's invested in this process. You could say something like, okay, I intend to go visit the site on my own time, for sure. I think you should just treat it like an ex-party contact, even though it's not something that is definitely going to come to you. If you treat it that way, you'll be clean. I would just recommend that you do that.
It's a good idea too, because if it does come before you, then you would have to announce that contact and whether or not it influenced you in any way. And if it did, then you would have to recuse yourself. So,
and somebody could challenge your ability to be unbiased.
Yeah, so the best thing is to let them know it could come before you, but you will assure them that you will talk with staff and you will visit the site.
Okay. Then we will move to city manager business.
I have a few things tonight. Did you have something you want to say?
I don't think you passed the vote.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Councilor.
This time they missed it.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate that.
I made a second, but there's no vote yet.
We have now completed our discussion, and I would like to call for a vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand, or raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you. I will now move to city manager business.
Okay, I do have a few things for you tonight, Mayor, members of the council. I'm a fast talker though, so I'll get through this pretty quickly. I believe Zoe Monahan reached out to all of you about council goal setting on dates. Raise your hand if that's true. Did we all commit to May 14 and 15? Raise your hand if that's true. All right, sounds like we have a date, so we can finalize that with staff. Second thing is I sent you an email, I believe last Friday, about our initial meeting with the feds, FEMA in particular, about our reimbursement on the ice storm event. We received very positive initial feedback on our application, especially the level of documentation that we've put together. Our all-in cost for that one little storm event is north of $700,000. We hope to get much of that back if possible. You're probably fielding a lot of questions, or you have some interest in the fact that it's been in the report in the newspaper that the city will receive around $5 million in ARA funding with the COVID relief package passed by Congress. I know there's a lot of interest in how we're going to use that money. I queued up a conversation with our executive team this morning. We're going to bring back some ideas and recommendations to you in the very near future. I know that the chamber sent out a blast email asking folks to lobby the city to use some of that for business recovery. I'm sure that will be in the mix as well. So when the time is right, we will bring that back to you. Let's see, Councilor Lehan, I want you to know that that conversation that we had about Mr. Reichel didn't just drop. I've done some initial reach out, and I just want to note that I think the OSU men's program favorite number might be 12, because they were picked to finish 12th in the coaches poll, the men's basketball poll. They ended up as a 12 seed, and they had to win the Pac-12 tournament to even get in. So I think 12 might be their lucky number. Mr. Reichel, I think, might be the most successful high school player to go through that program in the brief history of Wilsonville High School. But he's had certainly some competition with some other players that have gone through that program, but I don't think anybody can match his resume. So hopefully we can contact the high school coach and get the family and maybe have the mayor do a proclamation. We can declare a Zach Reichel Day or something. We'll figure something out for him. Congratulations to Councilor Lehan on her well-deserved award on the trees. And Councilor Ackerval, I wanted to also commend you for hopping on that website and grabbing that screen grab. So we'll take a shot of that and send it to the group. So thank you very much for doing that. And I think that is all I have, Mayor. Oh, I do want to say we did do a hot wash. Public Works did a hot wash on the storm event. We followed up with another hot wash of our IC team. We also invited in the Leo's Jim. I'm going to butcher his last name. I'm going to call him Jim M., the Sharpen OHOA manager. And we invited Ms. Batty to join. She wasn't able to. So we will be collecting all that information and presenting that to council on what we did well, things we should have done differently, and then we'll also look for your input as well. That is all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And I am very happy to do a proclamation about Oregon State University's excellent basketball program and our excellent Wilsonville player. Legal business.
No more legal business for tonight.
I am now going to adjourn the meeting at 9:22 p.m. Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.